We're going to get started right now in a few minutes. I believe we are live on Facebook. We're also live on YouTube at this point. So this is going to be a very, very fun class today. For those of you that haven't been pretty much following us or don't know who we are, my name is Sebastian Guerra. I am a financial advisor here at Guerra Financial Group. So we try to bring every single week a different event on a different topic. So we've been doing that already since quarantine has started here in the U.S. And pretty much we decided to do these classes every single week so we can talk about a different topic in regards to your money. So we've been doing topics on Social Security, and we've been bringing experts on the area of Social Security. We've been talking about what's the right age for you to be retiring. We've been talking about how to structure your investments based on risk. And we brought in an estate planning attorney. We brought in a tax advisor as well. So we've been speaking about all different types of topics. And today is going to be a very, very, very fun event because a lot of our clients have been asking us lately, where can I put my money where if I were to get sued, I can't lose my money, right? And I think that's a question that a lot of people have is, you've been working for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You've accumulated a couple $100,000, who knows, maybe a couple $1 million. And, you busted your butt for your entire life accumulating your savings. But the risk that you don't want to take is now you get sued. Now something bad happens in your life, unfortunate. And now you lose everything you worked for the last 30, 40 years that you worked so hard to be able to build up. So today we've actually decided to bring our attorney, Leslie Marenko. She's going to be with us right now live in a couple minutes. And she's going to be pretty much telling us all the different types of accounts that you could actually be putting your money in so that your funds are protected in case there were to happen a lawsuit, right? If a lawsuit were to occur at any point in time. So we're going to be going over that with you guys today. For those of you that don't know who we are, my name is Sebastian Guerra. I am a financial advisor here in South Florida. We have a team of about 20. Let me show you a quick little picture so you can kind of gauge a little bit about who we are and kind of what we do. So that's Leslie, that's myself right there. This is our team. It should load up because it's a pretty big file. We do have a team of about 25 in our office. We have an estate planning team. We have our financial advisors. We have our client service division. We have an events marketing team as well. So it's about a team of about 25 people in our office. And our job is to pretty much cater to about 1,200 families that we serve in South Florida, and mainly just talking about helping them organize their investments, organize their retirement, making sure that they actually save up what they need to be saving so that eventually they could retire. Because I think one of the big concerns that people have is, you have all this money, but what's going to happen the day you stop working, right? So that's a question I think everyone needs to ask themselves. Right now you might be 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, but there will be a point in time where you're going to stop working. It might be at 65, 67, 62, but that day is going to happen, right? And now the next question you have to ask yourself is, how are you going to maintain your lifestyle the day you stop working? Because a lot of people just say, oh, but the day I stop working, I'm not going to have that many bills. Well, you might be surprised because a lot of people are going to have the same amount of bills, if not higher, when they retire. So let's say that you needed $6,000 a month between you and your spouse to be able to maintain your lifestyle, food, restaurants, vacation, your mortgage, your insurance, your taxes, your car payment, your cell phone. You need $6,000 a month. But Social Security between you and your spouse, you only get $3,000. So where are you going to get the other $3,000 if you're never going to be working again a day in your life? And that's called retirement planning, right? Which is organizing your investments so that the day you stop working, your investments can generate for you the income to be able to cover that gap that is going to be missing. So that's my main priority. That's what I do with every single family I meet with on a daily basis, is just helping them structure their investments in such a way that eventually they can retire and they can not run out of money. Because that's the number one concern that people have when they retire is, I'm about to retire. I have these bills. My Social Security is only this. I have a gap of $3,000, $5,000 a month that I got to cover, and I only have this amount saved up. So it's just a matter of time before that money runs out. So the goal is, you do not want to run out of money before you die. That's the goal, right? You do not want to run out of money before you die. You want to die before you run out of money, because you do not want to be picking up the phone, calling your children and telling them, hey, I ran out of money. So you don't want to be doing that. So pretty much that's what we do every single day with each one of our families that we serve. If you would like to have a meeting with one of our financial advisors, you can go ahead and just text the letters GFG to the number 484848. So it's literally, you just grab your phone, you can text the letters GFG. So you just grab your cell phone, you text the letters right on your phone, 484848. You text those numbers and you just text the letters GFG in the text box. As soon as you send that text message, somebody from our team tomorrow is actually going to contact you, and we can gladly set up an initial consultation with one of our advisors to see if we could help you out and in organizing this, this phase of life, which is critical, which is what's going to happen the day you stop working. That's called retirement. That time period lasts anywhere between 20 and 30 years. You will not be working. You will only be spending money. How will you be able to maintain your standard of living during that time? So if you want to set up your meeting with myself, with one of our advisors, just go ahead and text the letters, text the numbers 484848, and you just text the letters GFG. Okay, Guerra Financial Group. Just text the letters GFG to the number 484848. So again, we're actually streaming right now live on Facebook. We're also streaming live on YouTube. If you're watching us right now live on Facebook, please do me a favor and send this link or share this please on your channel right now. We are trying to get this message across to as many people as possible about the importance of paying attention to your money. So, if you have friends, you have family that really feel they should be watching this, just grab the video on your Facebook page. There is a once you go onto the Facebook page, there's a little button right under. If you're watching us on Facebook, it says share. So just click on share and then reshare this video on your Facebook. That way this video will be seen by all of your friends and family on your Facebook feed. So that's if you're on Facebook. If you're watching us right now on YouTube and you know any friends or family that you feel that this content is valuable for, you can go ahead and grab this video, this link, the link of YouTube, and just send it over to any friends or family. We're just trying to get this message out to as many people as possible. So we're going to be bringing on Leslie in about 2 minutes. I'm going to go grab some water. I'll be right back. If you can grab some pen and paper, we're going to be talking everything that has to do with what happens if I get sued. How do I protect my money if I enter a lawsuit? We're going to talk a little bit about divorces. I know it's an uncomfortable topic, but it's a discussion that I think we need to have, is what happens when those events occur? What happens if I get sued? If I get in a car accident? If somebody falls at my house? Can I lose my retirement account? Are my retirement accounts, can they be taken away? Can my savings be taken away? So we're going to be going over all of that right now with Leslie. So we should be starting in about 2 minutes. Just grab pen and paper. If you want to take notes of it, also take notes of it on your phone. But this is going to be an incredible event. We've been getting a lot of questions about this. So we're going to be having right now Leslie in about the next 2 minutes. She's going to be logging on, and we will be speaking live with her on everything that has to do with lawsuits and how to protect your money against any lawsuits. So we'll be starting right now in 2 minutes, guys. Alrighty, guys. So we should be having Leslie on. There's a photo of her. So if you guys don't know who she is, but there she is. Can you hear me, Leslie?
I can.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you again for being here with us. I know that you were here a couple weeks ago, talking about pretty much everything on estate planning. If you're watching this right now on Facebook, or you're watching this right now on YouTube, we actually have a recording that we did with Leslie a couple weeks back on everything that has to do with estate planning. So if you want to go back and watch that, it'd be great. You learn a lot, like, do you need a will? Do you need a trust? Like, who should have a will? Who should have a trust? What happens if I get sick? What happens if I fall into if I fall into a nursing home? Who makes these decisions? So if you want to watch that video with Leslie, it was incredible. We had a couple hundred people on it that day. But today is a little bit of a different topic. So I wanted to bring Leslie on because I know that she deals a lot with this. She is an attorney. For those of you that don't know who she is an attorney, and she does focus in the area of estate planning. But she gets people all the time that are talking to her about what happens if I get sued. So I wanted to bring you on, Leslie, and I really appreciate. I know your time is just decently expensive, so I appreciate you being with us, and I hope everybody can get some good value out of this.
No, thank you for having me, Sebastian. And honestly, we estate planning attorneys deal with asset protection issues all the time. And usually when you're looking for an asset protection attorney, you're going to find out that they're probably an estate planning attorney that just has asset protection under their umbrella. So this is one of my favorite topics. It's forever changing. We always say, like, asset protection is like a dance between state law, federal law, case law that judges are making all the time. So it's a really, really interesting area of law.
So let's start off with that word that you just said, right? Because I know that we in the financial, attorney world and banking world, we like to use these fancy terms. So let's just start off with the basic. Is like, we use this word asset protection, right? You said asset protection, and I'm not as fancy as you, but let's just use that word for a second, because I think it kind of makes a little bit of sense. But what is the definition of asset protection? Like, what is that? Why? I mean, it sounds a little bit too fancy. So just how do
So,
we?
and I would think that actually the perspective is a little bit different, whether you're on the financial side or on the legal side. But to us as lawyers, our definition of what we do as asset protection attorneys is we look at, where does risk come from? And then how do we structure your assets in a way that makes it very hard, if not totally unreachable by a creditor? But that's
Yeah.
going to depend on who the creditor is. And that's why establishing where the risk is coming from, whether it's your business, whether it's just, you're not really in a risky profession or anything, but you're concerned if you get, you run over a bus of nuns. That's our usual joke. Did you crash into the bus of nuns? Did you cause a 10-car pileup on the I-95? So if that's the risk, that's a really different analysis than I have a business and I'm constantly being threatened with lawsuits, or I'm a doctor and I'm constantly being sued. Those are all different ways to attack that same problem. So
Got it. So the idea of asset protection is, I guess it all depends on your individual circumstances, right?
definitely.
There are certain people that are more prone to lawsuits, right? Like attorneys, like financial advisors, like doctors, right? So like people that, kind of make very big decisions for individuals, are probably very likely to get sued sometimes. So,
Sure.
not only is this good for everybody that's watching, but I think this is also good for you and I, to talk about. By the way, I have this discussion all the time with my clients, Leslie. I'm always talking to them about, like, if I were to get sued by a client, or if I were to get sued by anything, like, I feel like I'm pretty much safe because of where I have my money, and, it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit arrogant for me to say it, but, I think that knowledge is really powerful. And especially if you apply that knowledge, oh my goodness, like, it gets even better. So thank you, Leslie. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. I know that, this topic of lawsuits can get really, really long. But I just want to kind of just start off with the basics, and I just kind of prepared like a small little presentation for everybody to kind of just be able to have a little bit of guide on it, and have a basic understanding of pretty much the different types. I don't know if I'm sharing my screen yet. I think I am, right? Yeah, I'm sharing my screen already. So what I just wanted to Yeah. So what I just wanted to start off with talking about is, Leslie, is can we just go over like the basics of what are the types of accounts that are protected against lawsuits? So, I mean, I'll pretty much, I guess I'll let you kind of take it from there. But where, if I get sued today, let's just go straight to like nitty gritty, because I think this is what people want to know, is where can I have my money right now parked that if I were to get sued, they cannot go after that money?
Well, I mean, in general, I have really good news, I guess, for any clients that are truly Florida residents, because we're a very, very asset protection friendly state. In that way, not so much as some other states with their trust laws and whatnot, but just in a very basic level about what accounts Florida seems to really want to protect. They're vast. I mean, we have life insurance, and whether that's the cash surrender value of a life insurance policy or actually the proceeds from a life insurance policy is also exempt from any creditor. Annuities, exempt from any creditor's claim. There are always sometimes little exceptions to these things, and it's usually deals with bankruptcy court. So we're not really going to go into those right now. But for the most part, for a regular creditor, somebody that's suing you in the state of Florida, in state court, all of these things are really, really covered. Any type of pension fund, any of your qualified plans, your IRAs, your 401ks, and that's actually extremely covered because it's even covered in a federal court, even in bankruptcy court, or if the IRS is taking you to town for what you owe. I do want people to understand that, like, whether someone is a state creditor or a federal creditor, there are things that are super protected, like your IRAs, like your 401ks, like your pensions. And then there are things that are really protected depending on who your creditor is. So your super creditors are definitely bankruptcy trustee, IRS, and your spouse if you happen to get a divorce. Yeah.
Got it. So those are I guess those are the scariest people that can sue us, right? Our spouse, we got divorced. The IRS, we owe them money and we don't want to pay them back. Right. And 3 was who else? Oh, a bankruptcy
trustee. Yeah.
But I have understood, Leslie, that retirement accounts are protected in bankruptcy.
They are. They are.
So because I know that, I mean, I don't want to say this, but we've had a couple clients that have made some bad decisions with business, not with us, but on their own. And they've called us freaking out because they're like, I owe $250,000 in credit card debt and I'm going to have to declare bankruptcy. But the retirement accounts were untouched.
Untouched.
Yeah, completely untouched. So the main, okay, so let's kind of go over that. So let's start off with let's just start off with, I think the one that a lot of people are concerned about is what happens if I get divorced, if I fall into a divorce. So if I have a retirement account with, call it, like a 401k or an IRA or an annuity, right? Like those type of retirement plans, qualified plans that you call them. Those accounts, if I were to enter a divorce, can that money be split in a divorce?
Yes.
Okay. So that money is split.
So that will depend really on if that's a marital asset, right? When did that money accrue? And if you have a prenup or a postnup, things like that. But that generally is something that can be split in a divorce. Yeah.
Got it. So that's, yeah. So, okay. So, but now let me ask you, let's start off with like something pretty simple. So just to kind of verify, the main accounts, and I'll actually ask you more questions later, but so the main accounts are retirement accounts, life insurance, and what about your primary residence? Can that be taken away?
So generally, no. Florida has phenomenal, what we all think of as our homestead law, right? We have, people think of the homestead law in different ways, whether it's a tax savings, this and that. For our purposes, we're really just concerned that your homestead, as long as you don't have everybody else's name on it who's not homesteaded, is really, really protected. There are very specific rules about like whether you live inside of a city or you live in the, in the rural parts of the state. But generally speaking, it's one of the best homestead laws in the country. That's why we say O.J. Simpson moved here, right? What did he have? A really big house worth millions and millions of dollars, and the pension from the NFL and some other, retirement type plans. So when he was found guilty in civil court, not criminal court, they were going to come after his money. And so he had some good lawyers and they told him, go move to Florida and play some golf. After that, he did really stupid things, but that's not his asset protection attorney's fault. So he gave good advice.
Right. So your primary residence is technically, it is protected, right? So like if I were to get sued, then my house can't be taken away from me, my primary residence, but that doesn't mean my investment properties are at risk, right? So if I were to
Correct.
get sued, and we're going to get into the whole LLC stuff, I know we'll talk about that in a second, but my investment properties would not fall in that category.
Right. Your investment properties have to be structured in a totally different way because they are very open to a creditor claim. And we
Okay.
all know every creditor is looking for something that they can recover at the end of that lawsuit. And real property, number one, is something that's really easy to find generally. And number two, really easy to see if you've transferred it or tried to transfer it so they can claw it back. So
Got it.
they're really interested in pieces of property that are investment properties.
So maybe I should have started off with this question up front, but what is considered so you said the super creditors, those are the three that you mentioned, right? IRS, bankruptcy, your spouse, but like, what are other potential lawsuits that people just never think about that could happen to anyone, even if even if you don't work in a high risk job, right? Like I'm in a high risk job, you're in a high risk job. A doctor is considered high risk in the sense of lawsuits, right? So what would be defined, let's say for the regular person, right? A teacher that says, oh no, I'm just a teacher. How am I going to get sued? Or, I just work as an administrative assistant at an office. How am I going to get sued? So give me like a couple examples of things that could happen to anyone that could get sued.
Sure. I mean, where do I begin, right? Even if I just think of my last couple of client appointments that were for asset protection. Let's say your dog, cute little Floofy, runs out of your house and goes and bites somebody, and Floofy happens to have rabies. And now this person is suing you, going, this was your dog, and you have strict liability for your dog, by the way. So we've actually seen that, and they're going to sue you for medical bills. They're going to sue you for like pain and suffering. They can't work anymore. I mean, the whole gambit's going to come, right? You let your daughter borrow your car, and she goes and crashes into somebody. Let's say one of your children get into a fight at school and really cause, physical injury to another student. The 10-car pileup is one of my favorites. Don't hit the bus of nuns. It's not going to be a good day. A teacher, I actually represented a teacher in a consulting to the litigation that was happening. She made sandwiches for all of the kids in her class. And two of the kids actually got really sick. And to this day, we don't really know, but she was actually sued for that. So, there's so many things that can happen. I have a client that has a golf cart because they live on a golf course in Doral. Don't you live in Doral, Sebastian? So they live on a golf course in Doral.
I just moved 4 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And so their kid, ran somebody over with a damn golf cart. It was. So here we are. I mean, there's so many different ways. We live in a really litigious society. We have way too many attorneys in this town, and they all got to have something to do. So believe me when I tell you, somebody is looking to sue you for anything, for any little thing.
Right. And especially if they know you have money, even worse, right?
Oh, yes.
You're a bigger target, right?
Yeah.
So all of you guys that are clients watching this, you guys with that money, you gotta think about this stuff. All right. So good. Thank you, Leslie. So, all right. So perfect. We spoke already about, pretty much those are the types of accounts. So pretty much anyone can be sued for anything. Anyone. Yeah. So like, even if you have your own little business, you could also be sued if something goes wrong in your business. Somebody falls at your house.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Somebody goes to your house, have a party at your house, somebody falls, breaks their back. They're in the hospital for 3 months, recovering, whatever it is. They go after the liability insurance of your home, but then after that, they go after your personal assets if they want.
Yeah. And hopefully you have that. If it's your homestead, hopefully it's your homestead. If it's not, hopefully you have it structured under some type of LLC that has some type of charging order, what we call charging order protection. So people are under this mistaken, notion, because usually a realtor or someone told them, hey, look, it's a really good idea to put your property in an LLC. And that's true. And CPAs will also tell you that we don't want it sitting in a corp, and they don't want it sitting in a corp for a totally different reason, for tax purposes, if we ever need to move it. But it's not just registering the LLC that creates this protection. You actually have to have your LLC structured in a way, and it should be multi-member so that you could take advantage of what we call this charging order. And that's very technical in the way that somebody can recover assets from an LLC, but having it structured correctly will protect you a lot.
So I definitely want to have a longer conversation on the LLC part. So I'm gonna
Sure.
get to that in a second. But let's go over a little bit like what are like unprotected accounts. So like
Oh,
we spoke about the three main basic ones, right? Which are like life insurance policies. So a lot of you guys that are clients of ours, part of one of the main reasons that we use a lot of life insurance with our planning with our clients is we want to make sure that a lawsuit were to happen tomorrow, you don't worry about can they go after this money. Well, all the money that you have piled up inside a life insurance policy is pretty much protected. Your retirement accounts, your annuities are protected. Your primary residence is protected. So let's go over like what are the options what are the accounts or what are the investments that are not protected against lawsuits? Like if you don't have any sort of asset protection planning done.
sure. So your regular stock accounts, your investment accounts are not necessarily protected. Your regular bank accounts, any type of CD, and then certainly like any, if you got the boat and it's sitting over there in the marina, it's not structured. It's something that can be levied very, very easily. Any asset like that, personal property. I mean, your car, a lot of times your car is leased or your car is not, there's not that much equity in it. So they're not usually concerned about trying to come after your car. But if you're driving around in like the most expensive limited edition, Ferrari, then that is certainly something that's going to be interesting for a creditor to attach.
Okay, so they could go after your investment properties,
Yeah.
depending on how the investment property is structured, which we'll talk about that in a second.
Uh-huh.
But they go after investment properties. They can go after your boat. They can go after your bank account, your checking account, your CD, your brokerage account that is not a retirement account, right?
Right.
Your brokerage account.
Uh-huh.
They could go after, what about any personal assets? Like, let's say I have a bunch of artwork at my house. Like,
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a little harder for them to know what you have, but if you're always bragging about your Van Gogh and putting it all over Facebook, then absolutely, they can definitely go after that. Yeah.
okay. Okay. All right. So those are any other accounts that you can think of that like for sure they can go after, like other types of accounts?
I'll tell you, as someone that way before we started this firm, me and one of my partners, we were litigators. And what we did was we were going after assets in very, very large fraud cases. And so the things that we're always super interested in are those pieces of real property. Where's the boat? I mean, certainly if you have the Van Gogh, I'm super interested in the Van Gogh. And I'm really interested in what did you try to transfer? Because I'm interested in suing that person to get it back. So.
Got it. So what about businesses? Can you lose your business in a lawsuit? Like somebody suing you and taking the company that you worked 30 years to build because the lawsuit is so large that now they want to go after your business? Can that also happen?
And it's great that you said it exactly that way, Sebastian, because that's exactly right. It has to be large, right? Because the way that they're going to want to recover money out of this business is usually either through a receivership, because you're the one managing the business, right? So you're going to try to hide money any which way you can. And so that creditor needs to know that it's worth it for them to try to get a receiver appointed over this business so that they can go after all of the assets of the business. So yes, they can.
So if the lawsuit is big enough,
Yeah.
they can go after your personal stuff and then they can roll over and start taking out your business.
Yeah, because
Right.
you're, let's say, 100% owner of your business. So it's one of your assets. And that's
Right.
what we look at when we look at outside liability. It came from the outside, but it's trying to get into your business.
Got it. Okay, good. So I mean, I know we kind of spoke about a little bit about the whole, what happens if somebody falls at the property, can they take it away? So let's go over that a little bit. If let's say I'm having a party at my primary residence, right? And somebody falls and they get hurt. I know we spoke about that they can't take away my primary residence, but if they happen to sue me, and I have insurance on the home, usually the liability insurance on the home, if you have insurance on the home, because obviously if your house is paid off, some people decide to not even have insurance on their home. But the liability insurance is up to, what is it, like about 300,000 if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, so this is why like insurance and the analysis of insurance and how much do you have is always really, really important with a client. I mean, whether we're talking about life insurance, we're talking about your car insurance, your property and casualty, or even if we're talking about umbrella, right? Depending on the client and the nature of the assets that they have and the amount of the assets that they have, umbrella is a pretty cost-effective way to provide a lot of asset protection for you. To make sure if anything happens, people are getting paid out a large amount of money and they usually go away after that. It provides a lot of peace of mind.
So for those of you that don't know what an umbrella policy is, we strongly encourage people that have a significant amount of money saved up, like pretty much if you have more than $500,000 in assets, you probably need to have an umbrella policy, because think about it like this, right? So you get in a car accident, your car insurance has already liability insurance. So you left somebody in a hospital, they're, God forbid, they're a year in the hospital, and now they sue you, they win the lawsuit, and they sue you for $2 million, right? So your insurance from your car is going to cover, the liability insurance is going to cover whatever the liability insurance on the car is. So let's just call it 300,000. But they won a lawsuit for $2 million. So what happens with the other $1.7 million? Well, this is what's going to happen. They're going to go after all of your personal assets at that point. So what an umbrella policy does, because I know that some people have heard of it, but a lot of people don't really understand what it is. It protects you around all other assets against all other lawsuits. So if you get sued for the car accident and you lose a $2 million lawsuit, well, the umbrella policy would come in and pretty much protect all the remaining assets depending on the size of the umbrella policy. So if you bought a $5 million umbrella policy and they sue you for $2 million and you lose the lawsuit, well, 300,000 was covered by the liability insurance on the car, and then the other $1.7 million was covered by an umbrella policy. And people think that umbrella policies are really expensive. They're not even that expensive. They're probably a couple $100 a year.
Yeah, they're not.
$1,000 max a year. So those of you that have built up a significant amount of wealth, you guys really need to start to consider, having an umbrella policy. It's not an expensive thing, but it really protects you against those bigger events occurring. And people say, oh, but that stuff is never going to happen to me. I'm not going to get sued and all that stuff. But like, it doesn't work like that, how Leslie said. So
yeah, I always tell all of my clients, like, it's excess liability coverage is what it is, whether it's on top of whatever your car insurance is covering, whatever your homeowner's insurance is covering, all your other insurances. This is what sits on top, just like an umbrella. And it's the cheapest type of asset protection you can do. Honestly, it's one of the cheapest things that you can do.
Right. So when I wanted to go over, let's talk about properties for a second, because I think that's where the big one comes in, right? Like investment properties. So all right, so let's just assume for a second you have an investment property and it's under your name. Okay, Leslie? So it's under your name, and it's not your primary residence. So it's an investment property. You bought it maybe 5 years ago. So, right, I'll give you a perfect example. My case, actually, I'll use me as an example. So I just moved from my house that I was living in Doral 2 weeks ago. So I just moved over from Doral 2 weeks ago. I'm like 5 minutes away here from the office. Just wanted to be a little bit closer. So now if I were to, so that primary residence, right? That investment property, if I were to get sued, or let's say that person falls in that property, and that investment property that was my primary residence prior, now I converted that property into an investment property, but the property is still under my personal name, right? So my old primary residence is now an investment property, but it's still titled under my name.
Yeah.
But somebody falls at that house. Can they go after me personally?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is the reason why you create an LLC?
Yeah. LLC is generally the preferred structure. I mean, there are limited partnerships and things like that also that could work. But yeah, that's why you would create an LLC, amongst other things. I mean, that's probably one of the simpler things that you can do is structure an LLC correctly and make sure that you have the operating agreement and the charging order language inside of that operating agreement. And there are certain things that we can do to tweak it to make it, really protected, but you're going to want to structure it under an LLC, not under your individual name.
So what happens if I have 7 properties? Do I do an LLC for every property? Like
So,
I know I'm asking, I know you got to know the situation of each individual.
Sure. I tell my clients, if it were up to me, you absolutely would have 7 LLCs. But I am a very practical person. As you know, Sebastian, I used to be an engineer for many years before I became a lawyer. So one thing is, the law. The other thing is reality and what you have to deal with every year, right? So if dealing with 7 different properties, and 7 different, tax returns and K1s and whatever is going to make your head explode and cause you not to do any of this planning, then I would like clients to tell me, what are they comfortable with, right? I don't want to see millions of dollars sitting in one LLC. I just find that too attractive for a creditor to come after. So yeah, the legal answer is absolutely. For every property you have that is not totally mortgaged, I want it in a separate LLC. Is that the best thing for the client? Sometimes, it gets cumbersome and sometimes it gets expensive. So if they go, look, how about I get 3 LLCs and we figure this out, I'll take my chances. Okay,
Right.
then you're going to take your chances, right? Everything is a cost benefit.
Right, because if you have 7 LLCs, then you have to prepare 7 tax returns. So you got to go pay your accountant for 7 tax returns on 7 properties, which you'll end up spending more money with your accountant. Your accountant will love that, but obviously because you're paying him a lot more money. But at the end of the day, you're trying to have that, that asset protection. So it's kind of like how the saying goes: if you have all of your eggs in one basket and that one basket gets sued, then they can go after pretty much everything inside that basket.
All the eggs.
You have 8 baskets, and then one basket gets sued, while the other 7 are protected.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's good. Okay. So let me see what other things I actually want, because there's a couple things that I did want to talk to you about. All right. So there is one thing that I know we kind of touched on it last time, Leslie. So let's say, and I hear this happening all the time, where you have a mother, this happened a couple weeks back, and I just kind of want you to help me out, because I think this applies to almost everyone that's watching this. So the husband passed away a couple years ago. He was the primary owner. Excuse me. He and his wife were the primary owners of their primary residence. And then the daughter, the wife, when the husband passed away, he just wanted to add her daughter into the property as another owner, as a joint owner, so that the day that the mom is not around, then now the daughter just automatically inherits the property. So I don't want to talk about it so much on a tax basis and why that's a bad thing, because that's a separate conversation.
Sure.
But just, can you talk to me about what is the risk of having 2 different owners on one property? Because I look at things a little bit differently, but I want to see how you see them. But if you have a daughter and a mother, they're both the owners of the property. And what would happen there? Like, if a lawsuit were to happen, what are the risks of having 2 owners on a property versus just 1 owner on a property?
Yeah. And, whether we're talking about a property or we're talking about a bank account, something else is very common on a bank account. If this is truly your bank account, your property, and you add your daughter or anyone else to it, all of a sudden it's theirs too. So when they go out and they, crash into the bus of nuns, and now everybody is suing them, you can't turn around and say, just kidding, this was not my daughter's, this is my bank account. And there are states that have very good case law that say if you can track back every dollar, then we might be able to prove that it's only your bank account. Florida is not one of them. So Florida has no case law on that point. And we pretty much know that it's going to be, at risk. So you don't want to do that. You just do not want to add anybody to your account, to your house, to your anything, if it's not truly theirs also, if they did not contribute to it and you're willing to accept their risk, because they have their own risk, And
on top of that, let's make things a little bit more complicated. What about a divorce, right? So your daughter, mom is 70, daughter's 45. Daughter now ends up getting in a divorce. What happens there? I mean, could that asset be counted as part of an asset in the divorce, so that they can potentially go after that as well?
They can certainly say that half of the property or that portion of the property is marital property if they acquired it after the marriage. So unless there's a prenup or something else, they could say, hey, a half of that half is mine. And so I need to be paid out, or I actually need to sell this property and recover my money, my portion.
Wow. Okay. All right, Leslie. I mean, I know that we're kind of finishing up already, and I wanted to make this one a little bit shorter than normal. Normally, we go about an hour, but I really wanted to just kind of go over, pretty much the main concerns that people have in regards to this. But I want to just kind of finish off with the topic of trust, right? Can a trust protect you against lawsuits? If you have money sitting inside a trust, can that asset be protected? So my dad passes away tomorrow, leaves me $1 million. It goes inside a trust under my name. Then I get sued. I lose the lawsuit. Now they want to go after my $2 million, or they want to go after my personal assets. but then they also want to go after the trust that my father left me.
Yeah.
Can that happen? Can they go after that?
So I'll tell you that. So getting money in trust from another person, from your dad, from your grandfather, from some other third party is one of the easiest, cheapest ways that you could be so asset protected. And it's amazing to me that more people don't do it. I always tell my clients, like, in order for you to give that to yourself, Sebastian, if you wanted to create that level of asset protection for yourself, you got to structure it in some of these accounts or go offshore or set up a trust in, like, Nevis, Nevada. There's certain jurisdictions, right? But for your parents or someone else, your grandparents, to do this and leave it to you in trust, it is an easy way to do inside of their estate plan. And it's amazing the amount of asset protection the case law has shown us that you will have as the next generation, even from those super creditors. So
Wow.
it always blows my mind that a lot of clients don't care to add in that level of asset protection, because it's just such a great thing to do.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So I know that there's a lot of you that have a lot of questions for Leslie, have questions for us about like all of these topics. So if you're watching right now on Facebook or you're watching right now on YouTube, and you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask any questions that you guys might have. Let me see if there's anyone here that can ask that's asked any questions, but you guys can go ahead and ask those questions on the comment section. And we can go ahead and answer them. We'll also be answering them after the event. But if you also, I promised everyone, I forgot to mention at the beginning, but Leslie is going to be sending everyone that's on this webinar. She's going to be sending you a list of all of the different types of accounts that you can have your money sitting in, where if you were to get sued or whatever it is, that where you can have your accounts actually listed. So if you're right now watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, and you would like to get that free list, let me go ahead and just put it on the screen so you guys can all see it. But Leslie actually, took out the time to prepare for you guys a document on pretty much all of the accounts that are protected against lawsuits. So if you want that document, just go ahead and text the letters GFG to the number 484848. It's just the letters GFG to 484848, and then tomorrow our team is going to be sending that over to you guys. So Leslie prepared this for you guys. So you guys are aware of this. A lot of you guys that are clients of ours that are watching this and you're asking these questions of where can I have my money just in case I enter a lawsuit? Well, these are the types of accounts that you could be considering if you were to get sued. So thank you so much, Leslie, for providing that. So I do have a question here that came from Mary. She's asking, if you own a duplex and you live on one side and you have a tenant on the other, what happens there?
So Mary, if what you're asking is the whole thing your homestead and therefore protected, the answer is no. Only your side of the duplex is protected.
Got it. So what you're telling me is like, okay, so let's say that the whole property, it's a duplex, but the whole property is considered a primary residence. Then it is protected.
Right. So let's make that a little bit different. Let's say you have a house in Hialeah and, you a couple illegal apartments in the back, that are part of your house. So there's one folio number, it's one piece of land, that is different than if you have a duplex with separate folio numbers, separate addresses, separate everything.
Right, because typically a duplex does have different folio numbers.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So when we're using the word duplex, you're taking it literal. That
right.
It's separate properties, two separate legal properties with its own address, with everything.
Uh-huh.
Got it. So if you're talking about the Hialeah case where you have, how we see with 17 people living at the back, then in that case, then your whole property is asset protected. So again, I think that's a great question. If any of you guys have any more questions for Leslie, she's going to be she's going to be answering your questions. You can ask those questions here live on Facebook. You could also be asking those questions on YouTube if you're watching us on YouTube as well. Oh my goodness, yeah, we have a couple more questions. So I think we have a couple more minutes, Leslie, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Right. I know you have. Let me see here. So a question from Jenny. Jenny's asking, if you have like 7 properties in that case that we were talking about, wouldn't a trust be better to have ownership of the properties rather than having an LLC for each one?
So at that point, you'd really be looking at much more complex, irrevocable trusts. And yes, they could be better, but that will really depend, Jenny, on how much control you're willing to give up of those properties. Because remember, in those asset protected irrevocable trusts, you are no longer the trustee. So you no longer have control of those properties, and you're not the beneficiary either. You're choosing your children or your spouse or whatever it is. So it could be, but a lot of times when I break down those details to a client, they end up wanting something that's a little bit less restrictive,
Yeah.
especially if you're younger. Especially if you're in like your 40s and 50s and you're still like kind of that accumulation phase and you're going to be investing and doing different things over time. You don't want to lock up a lot of your assets in irrevocable trust unless you're above the exemption, unless you're above the tax exemption. Then we have a great opportunity right now.
So I guess what you're saying, just to make sure that we're on the same page, is if you put all of your properties inside a trust and you get sued, they can still go after your properties, right? Unless it's an irrevocable trust.
Correct.
Right?
So I think the types of trust that Jenny's talking about are irrevocable trusts, because if you just have a revocable one, then we are going to assign, the LLCs to the trust, and we're going to do that structure. Yeah.
Got it. But if it's an irrevocable trust, just to verify what you said, what you're saying is if it's an irrevocable trust, you lose control of the asset.
Yeah.
So that means you now technically cannot be making decisions on those properties. So if you want to sell it, there has to be another person assigned, and that person is the one that makes that decision. So if you assign it to your son, and then your son decides to not want to sell a property because you told him, hey, son, I need you to sell that property, but he decides to not do it, he doesn't need to do it.
Sure. Okay. But not only are you not trustee, you're not really beneficiary of that irrevocable trust either. So after your son sells that property and there's this pot of gold in a bank account under the trust name, son can't give it to you. Because if there's all of a sudden history of son doing this game with you, then your irrevocable trust is worthless.
Got it. And mainly irrevocable trusts are for like those really, really wealthy people, right? So
yeah.
So actually, let me sidestep on that, because I got that question today from a client. And I just, now that we're talking about it, I think it's good for everyone else to hear this. So a client today asked me, he goes, he was asking about the death tax, right? Which is what we call estate tax, right? So a lot of people don't know this, but I want everybody to be aware of like, okay, what happens when I die? Because some people think, oh, when I die, my heirs are going to have to pay a bunch of money in death tax or estate tax, all these things. So what is, but I think you know this, Leslie, and I know you deal with this every single day, is what is the limit where you actually have to pay that death tax? Because that death tax, I know that it's only above a certain limit. If you die with more than a certain amount of money, then you pay the death tax, right? The estate tax. So what is the percentage, and then how much do I need to die with above? Like, what are those two?
So I call that the coupon that the IRS gives all of us, right? And so right now, that coupon, that exemption amount that you need to die with more money to be above that amount to be taxed, is 11 million bucks. Okay, our president Trump raised it from Obama's 5 million plus inflation, and he doubled it. Right. So right now, until 2026, January 1st, it is $11 million, unless, Biden becomes president. And this is something that politicians are going to talk about every single time there's a new president. He may reduce it back down to, we don't know, 3.5, 5 million. We have no idea. What we do know is that obviously the government is printing money left and right, PPP loans and EIDL loans and everything else. So there's a lot of speculation that taxes are going to go up, and that might be one of the ways that they recover revenue. So
we've been talking about it for years already, telling our clients, like, get your money out of these qualified plans, like the 401ks, the IRAs. Get the money out, right? Get that done with now, rather than waiting 5 or 10 years from now where taxes are going to be higher. Just, get it done with. Some people don't like the idea. They're like, I don't want to pay the taxes. I'm like, you're either going to have to pay it now or you're going to have to pay it later. Right. So the question now turns into, do you think you're going to be paying more taxes later or more taxes now? And with the debt the way it is, with the spending the way it is in the US, like, taxes are more than likely going to go up. So just please, be paying attention to this stuff, guys, especially those of you that have retirement accounts. So
it's really, really important to work with people like on the financial sphere, your financial advisor, your attorney, that specialize in that area and know what they're doing, right? Because if you work with someone that is just kind of dabbling in different things here and there, it's not going to work. If somebody works with an advisor that's not like you guys, Sebastian, you know, and just doesn't know what they're talking about or just trying to sell product, it's not in the best interest of the client. So they really need to work with professionals.
Thank you so much, Leslie. So just to finish up, Leslie, thank you so much for your time. But if you would like to get the free form on all of the list of the types of accounts, Leslie took out the time to prepare that for everyone on the call. So if you want to get that free form, just text the letters GFG to the numbers 484848. If you want to have a meeting with Leslie and talk about your estate planning, designing a will, designing a trust, if you still have not set up that meeting, Leslie has actually come to an agreement with us where she is not charging any of our clients for that meeting with her. So thank you so much for that, Leslie. I know that your hour is not cheap, but if you have still not set up that meeting with Leslie, just go ahead and text the letters GFG to 484848. So literally you can just grab your phone at the top, just type in 484848 and just text the letters GFG in there. So with that said, thank you all of you that were on. I know that it was a lot of good content today. And if you're right now watching this on YouTube, just go ahead and subscribe. We're trying to get as many people to get as much information out of this. If you're watching us right now on Facebook, just grab this video and share it with your friends and family. The idea is to get this content out to as many people as possible. So if there's any questions that you guys might have, just go ahead and text them inside. And I don't know if Leslie, if there's anything else you want to leave us with.
Nope. No, I look forward to giving all you guys my my report, my asset protection, what accounts are exempt report.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Leslie. Take care. Have a great night, guys.
Bye.